I was always the kid who tried too hard. For 32 years I bent over backward to be the perfect son my parents wanted. I studied hard, kept my room clean, and never caused trouble. But no matter what I did, it was never enough. My sister Abigail was their golden child, while I was the family disappointment. Last Christmas they crossed a line that could never be uncrossed when they kicked me out of the house on Christmas Eve. That day changed everything. Before I share my journey to freedom, let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button to join our community of survivors. I grew up in a nice house in suburban Boston. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. My father, James, worked as an investment banker, and my mother, Diane, was deeply involved in local charity organizations. We never struggled financially, took annual vacations to Florida, and had all the material comforts a family could want. What our Christmas card photos never showed was the cold reality inside our home. The problems began when my sister Abigail was born. I was only 3 years old, but I still remember how everything shifted. Before her arrival, I had photos of my parents holding me smiling, seeming genuinely happy. After Abigail, those moments with me disappeared. She became the center of their universe, and I became an afterthought. My father was a stern, practical man who valued success and status above all else. He worked long hours and expected perfection when he was home. My mother was equally ambitious, socially, always concerned with appearances and how our family was perceived by their friends. Between the two of them, there was little room for genuine warmth or unconditional love. The unequal treatment became impossible to ignore as we grew older. When I brought home straight, as in 5th grade, my father glanced at my report card and nodded before returning to his newspaper. When Abigail brought home mostly B's with a single A- that same year, my parents took her out for ice cream and put her single A- paper on the refrigerator. I tried everything to win their approval. I joined the soccer team and the debate club. I helped with dishes without being asked. I learned to be quiet when Dad had a hard day at work. I became the ultimate people pleaser, always trying to anticipate what would make them happy. Occasionally, my efforts would earn me a brief moment of recognition. When I won the science fair in 8th grade, my father actually patted my shoulder and said, "Good job, son." I held on to that memory for months. Family dinners were particularly difficult. My mother would pepper Abigail with interested questions about her day, her friends, her hobbies. When she turned to me, it was usually with criticism. "Lance, sit up straight. Lance, chew with your mouth closed. Lance, did you finish your homework?" If I tried to share something exciting about my day, my father would often interrupt with a work anecdote, or my mother would suddenly remember something she needed to tell Abigail. I tried to build a relationship with my sister, but our parents made it nearly impossible. Anytime we started to connect, they would interject with comparisons. "Why cannot you be organized like your sister Lance or Abigail? At least you have common sense, unlike your brother." Eventually, Abigail and I stopped trying. We became strangers living under the same roof, another casualty of my parents' toxic favoritism. By the time I graduated high school, I was counting the days until I could leave for college. I had been accepted to a university 3 hours away, far enough that I would have a legitimate reason not to come home every weekend. I packed my bags with a strange mixture of anxiety and hope. Maybe distance would improve our relationship. Maybe they would miss me when I was gone. Maybe things would finally change. College was like breathing fresh air after being underwater for years. I made friends who actually wanted to hear my thoughts and opinions. My roommate, Sam, became the brother I never had, someone who valued me just as I was. For the first time, I experienced what it felt like to be seen and appreciated. I limited my visits home to major holidays and a week in the summer. Each time I returned, I would arrive with renewed optimism that maybe this time would be different. It never was. My undergraduate graduation ceremony was the first major disappointment of my adult life. Despite having months of notice and the ceremony being on a Saturday, my parents decided to attend Abigail High School choir concert instead. They were the only parents not present when I received my computer science degree with honors. After college, I landed a job at a tech company in Boston. I found an apartment about 45 minutes from my parents' home, close enough to visit but far enough to maintain my sanity. I thought that achieving financial independence and professional success might finally earn their respect. I was wrong. They forgot my birthday 3 years in a row, despite my mother keeping a detailed calendar of every family event. When I reminded them after the third time, my mother said, "Well, Lance, you know how busy we get in April with the charity gala." April was also the month of Abigail's birthday, which they never forgot, complete with elaborate parties and expensive gifts. The inequality continued in more significant ways, too. When Abigail decided she wanted to attend graduate school for art history, my parents immediately offered to pay her full tuition. When I had started my undergraduate degree 4 years earlier, they had told me I needed to learn financial responsibility and experience the real world. I worked part-time throughout college and took out student loans that I am still paying off today. Family vacations became another source of pain. My parents would plan trips around Abigail's schedule, consulting her about destinations and dates. I would receive a text message a week before departure. "We are going to Cape Cod next weekend. You are welcome to join if you can get time off work." They seemed surprised when I often could not rearrange my professional obligations with such short notice. My mother found endless ways to criticize my life choices. My apartment was too small. My career was just playing with computers all day. My dating life was dissected and found wanting, with frequent reminders that I was not getting any younger and questions about when I would settle down like your sister. Meanwhile, Abigail, cycling through boyfriends, was described as exploring her options and not settling for less than she deserves. My father was no better. When I was promoted to senior software engineer, after just 2 years, a significant achievement in my field, his only comment was, "Well, I suppose that is good for that line of work." He would then turn the conversation to his own career accomplishments, or more frequently to Abigail's latest endeavors, however minor they might be. The constant dismissal and criticism took a toll. I developed anxiety that manifested as insomnia and stomach issues. I became withdrawn in social situations, always waiting for the criticism or rejection that felt inevitable. I started seeing a therapist who helped me recognize the toxic patterns in my family and how they had shaped my self-perception. Through therapy, I began to understand that the problem was not me. It never had been. My friends became crucial to my healing process. Besides Sam, who had remained close since college, I formed a tight bond with Jordan, a colleague who quickly became a trusted confidant. They showed me what healthy relationships looked like. They celebrated my successes without competition. They offered support without keeping score. They valued my opinions and feelings. Through their eyes, I started to see my own worth. With this growing self-awareness, I began establishing boundaries with my family. I declined some family gatherings, explaining that I had prior commitments. I kept my visits shorter, leaving when the environment became toxic rather than enduring days of subtle abuse. I stopped sharing details about my life that could become ammunition for criticism. My parents and sister reacted to these boundaries with increasing hostility. My mother called more frequently, leaving guilt-inducing voicemails. "I guess we are just not important enough for you anymore." My father became more overtly critical, as if trying to regain control through intimidation. Abigail took to making passive-aggressive comments on my rare social media posts. Despite the increasing tension, I continued trying to maintain some relationship with my family. Deep down, I still harbored the childhood hope that they might change, that they might one day see me for who I truly was. That hope was about to be extinguished completely. Last December, despite my reservations, I agreed to spend Christmas with my family. I spent hours selecting thoughtful gifts, took 3 days off work during our busiest season, and drove through a snowstorm to reach their house on December 23rd. When I arrived, my mother greeted me with a distracted kiss on the cheek before immediately returning to her phone conversation. My father barely looked up from his newspaper to acknowledge me. I carried my bags to my old bedroom, which had long since been converted to a home office with just a futon for overnight guests. As I unpacked, I heard enthusiastic greetings downstairs. Abigail had arrived with her new boyfriend, Tyler. The contrast in their welcome compared to mine was stark and painful. That evening, my mother had prepared an elaborate Christmas Eve dinner. Tyler was seated next to my father, who spent the entire meal engaged in animated conversation with him about investments and sports. My mother focused her attention on Abigail, cooing over her new haircut and asking detailed questions about her job at an art gallery. I sat quietly, occasionally attempting to join the conversation, only to be interrupted or ignored. When I mentioned my recent promotion to development team lead, my mother nodded absent-mindedly and immediately turned to Abigail. "Honey, tell everyone about the client who wanted to purchase that sculpture you were telling me about." My significant career achievement was dismissed in favor of an anecdote about a gallery customer. After dinner, I tried one last time to connect. While helping with dishes, I gently mentioned to my mother that it hurt to have my news overlooked. Her response cut deep. "Lance, not everything has to be about you. You have always been too sensitive. Abigail has real stresses in her life right now, and we need to support her." The real breaking point came during the exchange of gifts. My parents presented Abigail with an envelope. Inside was a document showing they had provided the down payment for a house in her name. Abigail squealed with delight while I sat in stunned silence. Just 6 months earlier, I had asked my parents if they might help with a portion of a down payment for an apartment I was hoping to buy. They had lectured me about financial responsibility and the importance of saving, telling me they were not in a position to help right now. I waited until the excitement died down before speaking. In a calm voice, I asked, "I am curious why you were able to help Abigail with a house when you told me you could not help with my apartment down payment earlier this year." The room fell silent. My father cleared his throat. "That was different, Lance. Abigail needs more space for her creative pursuits. Your apartment is fine for your lifestyle." "My lifestyle?" I asked, still keeping my voice level. "What does that mean?" My mother jumped in. "Lance, let us not do this on Christmas Eve. This is about Abigail's special moment. Every moment is Abigail's special moment." I replied, feeling decades of hurt rising to the surface. "I am just asking for an explanation about the different treatment. I have never asked for much, but this seems like a clear double standard." That is when Abigail exploded. "Oh my God, Lance, you are so jealous. You have always resented me because Mom and Dad see that I actually need their help. You just want everything handed to you while you play on computers all day. You are completely ungrateful for everything our parents have done for you." I was speechless. I had paid my own way through college. I had never received financial support as an adult. I had spent years trying to earn a fraction of the love and attention that was showered on Abigail unconditionally. Instead of defending me, or even attempting to mediate, my parents took Abigail's side. My father stood up, pointing his finger at me. "You have always tried to ruin special family moments with your complaints. Your sister is right. You have never appreciated what you have." Then came the moment that severed the last thread of our relationship. "My mother," her voice cold, said Lance, "if you cannot be happy for your sister, perhaps you should find somewhere else to stay for Christmas. We will not have this negativity in our house during the holidays." I looked at the three of them, a united front against me, and felt something break inside me. Without a word, I went upstairs, packed my bags, and came back down. "Merry Christmas," I said quietly. No one tried to stop me as I walked out the door. I drove through the night to Sam's house. When I arrived, disheveled and emotionally shattered, Sam and his partner welcomed me without question. They set up their guest room, made hot chocolate, and sat with me as I finally let out 32 years of pain. In that moment, I understood what family should feel like, and it was nothing like what I had experienced with my blood relatives. After that Christmas, I made a decision that was both the hardest and the easiest of my life. I went completely no contact with my parents and sister. I blocked their numbers on my phone. I created new email addresses and abandoned the old ones. I set all my social media accounts to private and removed any family members or their friends. For the first time, I prioritized my own mental health over the fantasy that my family might someday change. I committed fully to therapy meeting with my therapist, weekly, to process the grief and guilt that accompanied my decision. I focused on my career, pouring my energy into projects that were recognized and valued by my colleagues and supervisors. I deepened my friendships with people who showed me consistent respect and genuine care. The first few months of no contact were surprisingly peaceful. Without the constant criticism and dismissal, I found myself standing taller, speaking more confidently, laughing more freely. I started exploring hobbies I had always been interested in, but had abandoned after family mockery. I took cooking classes, joined a hiking group, and even tried rock climbing. I discovered parts of myself that had been suppressed for decades under the weight of family disapproval. The peace was interrupted 3 months after Christmas, when my parents showed up unannounced at my apartment. I did not answer the door, but I could hear my mother crying in the hallway and my father demanding that I stop this childish behavior. They left a letter filled with guilt trips and accusations, but notably lacking in any acknowledgement of their behavior or apology. They tried reaching me through friends, sending messages that painted them as concerned parents, whose troubled son had inexplicably cut them off. Sam received a tearful call from my mother asking him to talk some sense into me. To his credit, Sam politely but firmly told her that he supported my decision and suggested they respect my boundaries. My sister took a different approach. She began contacting extended family members, telling them a twisted version of events, where I had become irrationally angry about their generosity to her, and had stormed out on Christmas, breaking our parents' hearts. Soon I was receiving concerned emails and calls from aunts, uncles, and cousins, most of whom had only a peripheral presence in my life, but now felt entitled to weigh in on my family estrangement. I maintained my boundaries through it all, providing only minimal explanations to the few family members I still trusted. "I am taking space for my well-being," became my standard response. I hope you can respect that. The situation escalated dramatically in June, when I posted photos on a new, more secure social media account of a vacation I had taken with Sam Jordan and some other friends to a beach house in California. Someone showed these photos to my family. The harassment intensified immediately. I received dozens of calls from blocked numbers. Relatives I barely knew sent messages accusing me of being selfish for enjoying myself while your parents are suffering. My mother somehow got my new email address and sent daily messages ranging from guilt-inducing. I cry myself to sleep every night, wondering what I did wrong, to angry. "After everything we have done for you, this is how you repay us." The lowest point came when my parents drove 6 hours to my city and camped outside my apartment building. My neighbor texted to warn me, and I called a rideshare to avoid encountering them. But they spotted me leaving the building and followed me to the car, my mother crying dramatically, while my father demanded I speak to them like an adult. I rolled down the window just enough to say I have asked for space. Coming to my home unannounced is not respecting that boundary. Please leave before I need to involve building security. My father's face turned red with anger. You have destroyed this family with your selfishness. Your mother cannot even enjoy holidays anymore because you have broken her heart. You have ruined everything with your ingratitude. In that moment, looking at their angry, entitled faces, I felt a clarity I had never experienced before. No, I said calmly. I did not ruin anything. You did. For 32 years you showed me I was less important, less valuable, and less loved than my sister. You criticized my achievements, dismissed my feelings, and made me feel unwelcome in my own family. Then you threw me out on Christmas Eve for quietly asking why you would help Abigail buy a house after refusing to help me with an apartment. I do not owe you my time, my energy, or my presence after a lifetime of emotional neglect. Please respect my decision, or I will take legal steps to ensure my boundaries are respected. Their expressions showed pure shock. No one, especially not me, had ever spoken to them with such direct honesty before. My mother stepped back as if physically struck. My father sputtered, unable to form a coherent response. Without waiting for them to recover, I instructed the driver to leave, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders as we drove away. It has been a year since that confrontation, and my life has transformed in ways I never imagined possible. I received another promotion at work, now leading a team of developers on a major project. I moved to a larger apartment with a view of the city skyline. I have developed new friendships and strengthened existing ones, creating a chosen family that supports and celebrates me authentically. The holidays that once filled me with dread are now occasions I look forward to. Last Thanksgiving, Sam and his partner hosted a family of choice dinner, with 12 people who all genuinely enjoyed each other's company. For Christmas, Jordan organized a ski trip where we exchanged thoughtful gifts and created new traditions. No one criticized my cooking, questioned my life choices, or made me feel less than. No one got thrown out into the snow for asking reasonable questions. I still have moments of sadness for the family relationships I never had and never will have. Grief comes in waves, usually around birthdays or family-oriented holidays. But these moments are becoming less frequent and less intense. They are no longer accompanied by the crushing guilt and self-doubt that once plagued me. Interestingly, I heard through a cousin that things in my family have shifted since I left. Abigail's boyfriend broke up with her, and suddenly she is experiencing some of the criticism that was once directed solely at me. The golden child status is apparently conditional, lasting only as long as she perfectly fulfilled my parents' expectations. Part of me feels sympathy for her, knowing exactly how that criticism feels. Another part recognizes that this cycle of toxicity will continue with or without me, and I am grateful to be free of it. The most important lesson I have learned is that family is not defined by blood. Family consists of the people who respect your boundaries, celebrate your successes without jealousy, support you through difficulties without keeping score, and love you without conditions. Sometimes those people are biological relatives, but often they are the connections we choose and nurture throughout our lives. If you are in a situation similar to what I experienced, please know that you deserve better. You deserve to be valued, respected, and loved for who you are, not for what you can provide or how well you meet others' expectations. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary for your well-being. Walking away from toxic relationships, even family ones, is sometimes the only path to peace. The life you build on your own terms, surrounded by genuine love and respect, is infinitely more fulfilling than one spent chasing the approval of people who cannot or will not give it freely. I will never regret choosing my own happiness and health, even at the cost of traditional family ties. Some prices are worth paying for the freedom to be your authentic self. What does family mean to you? Have you ever had to create boundaries with relatives for your own well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. And do not forget to like and subscribe if my story resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey. Remember, you deserve people in your life who make you feel valued, not those who constantly make you question your worth.